What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, consider subscribing and leaving a like. So today we're going to be reviewing Persona 3 Reload. Now I know I'm a little bit over a month late on this, but after playing in 70 hours with the game, I did want to give a actual, in-depth review, spoiler free of course, and kind of just talk about my experience with it. It is my first Persona game, actually. Not the first one I've owned, but first one I actually played and went through and everything like that. So I didn't want to talk about it after having time to sit down, watch some videos after I've beat it and everything like that. So if you're interested in Persona, you're thinking about grabbing this, either buying it or playing it on Game Pass, which is what I did, I want to enlighten you guys about that. So let's get right into it. So this is actually the fourth iteration of Persona 3. So the original came out back in 2006 for the PlayStation 2, and then there were other releases later. Persona 3 Portable on the PSP. You had Fez, which added some more story elements, and now you have Reload, which is a whole remake in a sense for the game with some differences from the other four. So again, I haven't played the other version, so I'm not an expert on all the differences and what's the definitive way. From what I've heard, this is a good way to play it, but it's not necessarily the definitive way. But we also have DLC coming on the way, so I would say this is probably the best way to play it modernized in 2024. Atlus really does its thing on this. For this to be a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series, it's been the breadwinner for Atlus. Sega has Atlus making Persona, Shin Megami Tensei. They got Sonic Team with the Sonic games. They got the Yakuza series. So Sega's got a nice, foundation as a third-party developer under its belt, to keep it moving. So when it comes to the art style for the game, Persona is just known to be this stylish of, just everything is stylish or stylized or have some type of characteristics and personality to it. Persona 3 Reloads kind of takes some of that art directions using Unreal Engine 4 and just make things more modernized. Like I said, the sharp edges, the cool music, the cool menus, the fact that Atlus puts so much time into the menus of these games, and just having the little movements in the background, the little like I said, sharp edges and highlights when you go over each option, stuff like that, just the detail that you love to see in video games. It does have that kind of 3D anime style. There are even cutscenes in the game that sometimes will be in the style of the game, in engine footage of the cutscene for what you're watching, but also sometimes you'll see a cutscene that is fully anime, someone that did a real anime show. And there's a Persona anime show, so I don't know if that's the same studio, but it's cool to see the direction of that, and that's kind of what drew me into the game as well. So now let's talk about the story of the game. So the story, of course, starts with a silent protagonist who has amnesia. Now, where have I heard that before? Where have you heard that before? Every answer, leave it in the comments where you've ever heard a JRPG or anime that starts with a silent protagonist with amnesia. So you are a transfer student coming in, and from the very beginning you kind of see what's going on. Before you get to the dorm room, you see a bunch of these coffins lying around or floating and off the ground around the subway after you came, and you're like, what is this? And then you check into the dorm, there's a lot of creepy stuff going on, but then you kind of realize and are told what is going on. So there's this thing called the dark hour, which happens at midnight every night, but it's kind of like an extra hour. It's like the 25th hour in a sense, and only some people can notice it. Some people don't, that they turn into these coffins, and some people do notice it and aren't like everybody else. So these people ends up being your team. They're Persona users, and Persona are these inner beings that you're able to call upon that can do different abilities to help you fight and things like that. So you join the SEES team, that's SEES, and that stands for the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad. So all of you live in this dorm room together, and you go out during the dark hour. You go fight these things called shadows. in Tartarus, which is the dungeon that you will climb throughout the game, and hopefully you can bring an end to the dark hour. That is the main objective of the game. There are also these, on the full moon during the dark hour, these stronger shadows that come about, and you're told that if you destroy all these, the dark hour will end, Tartarus will be gone, and that's your main mission, right? So during the day, you're a student, you're going to school, you're maybe working part-time after school, and then during the dark hour, you're going to Tartarus and fighting these shadows as a teenager risking their life to save the world. It's funny how anime always relies on teenagers to kind of, save the world from imploding, but that's pretty much the background on the entire story of the game. And, overall, the story kind of talks about, death, facing your mortality and things like that, which is some heavy topics. I don't know if the original had the same warning menus, but this one, when you're playing it, said, hey, this talks about death, suicide, take a break from the game, don't just play. It's a lot of heavy stuff, and there is, again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there is, death, facing that, learning the value of life, suicidal thoughts, there's a lot of that in this game. So yeah, there is heavy elements, but definitely, again, if you want that full experience of a game and really get enthralled and engrossed in the environment, then this is the game for you for sure. Let's talk about the gameplay. So I kind of mentioned it already, but pretty much the game is split into two halves. So you have the daytime or afternoon, even the evening, where you're going to school, you're working on building what they call social links, which is there's certain characters you can talk to and build, relationships with, whether that's friendship or romantic, even some older couples that you're helping out with their store and, building that kind of relationship and things like that. And then during the nighttime, you're going to the dungeon that I call Tartarus that I mentioned earlier. And when you go there, you're just working your way up, fighting different waves of enemies and things like that, just to, again, eliminate this dark hour that's happening. Now, when I mentioned the persona and also the social links that you can build, so with the social links, there are different types of persona. There's, chariot, there's justice, there's magician, there's all these different types, and each of those types, you have a social link that you can build and be stronger with when you're hanging out with these people and, building that relationship. So then when you go to create or fuse that persona, what you can do in Tartarus, you can, as a main character, you're allowed to use as many persona. As you level up, you can use more, but everyone else has their one. You have 6, 7, 8, however many you want. And you can kind of use the power of these social links to make stronger persona who have different bonuses and abilities and things like that based on your social links. So I think they did a good job or great job with, again, I haven't played any other persona, so I don't know how it works, but they kind of make it's a loop. Each day something happens. Sometimes it doesn't, but there's specific days where certain things happen to make the story go along. And I think they did a great job of not making that part boring and also not making the dungeon crawling boring, because the game can get a little repetitive, but I think you wanting to okay, I'm gonna hang out with this person today, and there's no consequence if you don't. For one instance, you join the track team or you join the art club and student council, and I used to think okay, if I don't do it enough, then I'm going to ruin that relationship. And it's it's fine. Some people will text you one day, you can go do that, work on that social link, or you can just not do any of it and just, whatever you do ends up pushing the time forward and going to the next day. You don't have to go to Tartarus every night. You really can go at your own pace. You can build the relationships that you want to build. And I think that's what I really like, the freedom of choosing what I wanted to do with my time in the game. Now, when you do go to Tartarus, the floors change after there are certain blocks, I would say maybe every 30 floors or so, that the floors will change. Enemies will be different. Some are, tougher. Obviously, the higher up you go. There are chests to open as you run through the floors that could give you certain items that you can't buy outside of the game. So I think, like I said, it's kind of go at your own pace. If you feel like you want to grind and get stronger, fight these little shadows running around, get stronger, so that you can go through TARDIS a little easier. Maybe you want to build certain persona, and so you want to work on your social links a little more. Maybe there's a certain persona you want, and you looked up like, okay, I need this to be a little higher, things like that. So I think, again, the system works really well together, and you can kind of go, there's no time limit. It's like certain events will move the time forward, but outside of that, there's no time limit. You can stay there until you hit a wall and can't go any further. Or if you just want to end the night and, go on with your day, you could do that as well. Now, when it comes to the actual combat, so you can either attack with your regular weapon, which you can always buy more and upgrade and things like that, or you can attack with your persona. Now, of course, with your persona, there are certain characteristics of the persona that then reflect on you. So if you use a certain one that's weak to wind and an enemy uses a wind attack on you, that's what's going to hurt you. So whatever one you have equipped is going to be your characteristic. So you need to be smart about that. Some persona, they have, auto, your attack is higher when it's equipped, so you might want to start with them, things like that. But the regular combat is traditional, turn-based. Like I said, either attack physically or use your persona. Using your persona will use, SP, which is, special points, or, which is, the magic points in every single, mana, whatever you want to call it, in every RPG for the most part. But there are some attacks that are more physical that actually use HP, which are your hit points. So you have to be smart about that. Sometimes I'll use those and have like regenerated HP on me, or I use those attacks in the beginning because I felt like I'm going to win and it won't hurt me that much. But just keep in mind when you're building your party that if you faint or you get killed or your HP goes to 0, then the entire match is over. That's the same with most RPGs, Super Mario RPG, everything like that. Like the main character has to stay alive, so you really want to pay attention to that and make sure they're getting the priority. So when you're building your party, you all can attack. You can attack weaknesses. Sometimes you have as the battle's going on, you can have a character scan and you can see, okay, that's their weak point. I can attack with that. If you attack with that, you get what's called, one more go. So you get to go again. And then if there's 3 enemies, you hit all their weaknesses. They also get knocked down. And then when all the enemies are knocked down, whether you do a critical hit or a weakness hit, you can do what's called an all-out attack. And the all-out attack is where you and all your party, as long as your party isn't, afflicted with a status ailment, you can all attack and do a stronger attack together and things like that. You can even shift between people if you want to do a different attack, or you want this person to go when it's another person's turn, or you just went. But you can only do that if you have that one more go. So if you have that one more go, you could just shift to someone else, do a different attack that you want to do instead of that specific character going again. And then you also have I still don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's called Theurgy, which is basically like each character you could check when you unlock this is basically your like super move, your super attack, and some or all characters have multiples of these. You get, I think, 2 or 3 each. And each character has a different characteristic that fills this meter up. So for the main character, it's using persona. So whether you attack with the persona, whether you heal with it, you do a status thing, as long as you do that, your meter's going to go up. Someone else, it's if you do a physical attack, it'll go up. Someone else, if you heal, it goes up. So you need to learn as you strategize, like, okay, maybe I'll lower the defense with this. That'll make the meter go up, and then the next time I go, I can go and my all-out attack will be stronger. Like, you just got to really strategize based on the characteristics and how your team is built on how you want to do that to be able to finish the fight. And then at the end of each fight, you get, well, not everyone, but there's this thing called shuffle time, which is you finish and a card will come up. Either you could get extra experience points, money, a new persona, an arcana card, which affects you for the entire time that you're in TARDIS, which is maybe it'll give you like boosted this or raise the level of that for your persona, things like that. And shuffle time, it's random, but if you like in the match, like in a certain way, like if you end with an all-out attack, you'll always get shuffle time automatically. If you ended with like killing and everybody in one hit or a weak attack, then you might have a higher chance of getting it. So you just want to keep that in mind too when you get the shuffle time, and be able to get it more often, because it'll help you as you're going throughout the the rest of Tartarus. And then, like I mentioned earlier, during the full moon, there are these special shadows that you fight. They're like these big bosses, and you kind of go through these other mini dungeons, which are, a nice change of pace outside of Tartarus. So every 30 days, and you'll have a calendar that kind of shows you'll be able to fight these bigger, shadows that, again, nice change of pace. Some of them have puzzle elements to get through the dungeon and things like that. So it's a nice, switch up for the game. And I want to spend a minute or so, not that much longer on it, but everyone knows with JRPGs, the music and the sound is the big thing. But Persona is known, people have the vinyls of the soundtrack, all these types of things, and I think it's pretty good. Persona, it's from the beginning, before you even get to the title screen, you got this kind of whimsical pop kind of song, and then it turns into a rap song, and then turns to a punk rock song. It just goes through all the emotions of what this game is about. And I think each environment has a different thing. Whether you're in the classroom at your school, you're going to the town, you're going into the actual store, you're going in the dorm room, you're going through the menu, there's a different sound that kind of goes with everything. And it's it's its own sound. I don't know what it is. It's a chill, but sometimes upbeat, punk, trip hop. I don't even know what it's called, but I think the sound effects are good. When you're running around, you actually hear your feet clacking and clicking and all that. When you hit the enemies, the sound of impact with the moves and everything like that. They did a really good job with the sound design and upgrading it as well. I know I've heard some of the older versions of the songs, and they've done a good job remixing a few of them, minus the main battle theme. That's one of those is not that good. Let's talk about the lasting appeal, replay value, all these things like that. So like I mentioned, the Persona games are pretty long. I finished it with 70 hours, and I did do a decent amount of, side content, building my relationships, doing all these kind of things, because I feel like it helps you at the end. I don't mind doing those type of things in the game if it's going to make my playthrough a lot easier. I get to experience more of the story and these relationships and things like that. It's not just for the sake of it, I want to play a dating sim, you know what I mean? You actually get something out of it, new armor, new stronger persona, things like that. So I think for me, I finished in, like I said, 70 hours. I think how long the beat said 61 hours to play it, and then over 80 or 100 to fully complete it. But again, you're gonna, if you're willing to put in the time, you do it. And if you enjoy it, like I enjoyed it, you don't notice the time that much. I knew it was gonna be a long game, but I think the pacing was fine. There's some kind of slow points, so the only thing I would want to change is the fact that you can't do, if I want to build a certain social link, sometimes they're not available. I feel like you should be able to build anything at any time. Now, there are some that you can build when you have stronger, courage or academics. You raise that up. That's the only way you can build a relationship with someone else. But, I think that's the one thing I would change. You should be able to, once you have a relationship with somebody, you could hang out with them every day if you want to, instead of some days no one's available and you're kind of just okay, I'll just work part-time at the coffee shop, or okay, that to me kind of just that's the time sink part of the game a little bit, where you're kind of just passing time for the sake of it, or waiting for exams to start and stuff like that. So what would I give the final score for this game? For me, I'm gonna give it a 9. I gave it a 9. I don't want to be unsurprising, but most of my reviews I'm going to give are probably going to be a little higher in the score. That's why I do the review on it, because I want to talk about it. If a game doesn't score high, I'm probably not playing it. So that's, if anyone's wondering, you watch my other reviews, that's why it's like that. But yeah, I give it a solid 9. Right now on Metacritic, it's sitting at an 89 with an 8.2 user score. So that's close to pretty much what I put on it. You know, for me to never really play a Persona game, not really be a turn-based person, you know, you got to add something, other elements to it. You know, same way I felt about like Sea of Stars had a cool mechanic going with it. Super Mario RPG, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of it, it did do some cool things to it, you know, in Persona 3. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. Again, it's on Game Pass. They just announced the Aegis story is going to be added. I think it's September. So, and I think it may be free for Game Pass people. I'm not sure. It's an expansion to the story, so I'll probably check that out later this year. But that's it. That's my review for Persona 3 Reload. Let me know what you guys think. Are you fans of the Persona series? Of course, you know, a lot of people are, even if it's just the music with the jazzy trip hop, you know, elements to it. It's great. So definitely recommend it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, subscribe if you have not already, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.